I'm getting the word that we're ready to jump straight into action.
I was just typing that. I was like, yeah, let's just get down to the table if we're ready for it. Let's see who we've got in the main feature match area and what decks they're going to be battling it out with.
Yeah, it looks like we're straight into action
we
here.
are.
We'll with round one already being underway here. So let's see what this thing at the Stupor is targeting, because it looks like we have Belcher versus Underworld Breach. So probably a sign of things to come here.
I would say it's probably targeting that Piffin Needle, right? Like this looks to me right now. This looks like end step, Stupor, bounce the Piffin Needle, which is probably going to be on something like Lotus Bloom or Belcher, and then Tom's just going to try and win in the upkeep.
I can't recommend naming Lotus Bloom though, since it's a mana ability.
Belcher, you know what I meant. This is why you're in the room. I'm just going to say I think Tom is the top of our screen and Luke is the bottom of our screen. We're going to see if we can get that swapped around for us all.
Yep, the names are reversed here. So let's see as this Lotus Bloom comes off suspend. So now, with 7 mana available on the Belcher side of things, let's see what Sodek can do here. Looks like shields are almost down on the side of the Breach player.
Ooh, just a pass of the turn there, though. So, no, didn't want to go for it there. Look, we can look at his hand. Just a bunch of counter magic in there.
Is that but no action.
No, that's weird. So what sort of action is he looking for? What's the big finisher that he can
the Goblin Charbelcher is what you want here to finish off the game. And in the meantime, we're trying to save a little bit of time here when it comes to disrupting Shoal. I do believe we have a couple of constructs in play, making sure that Sodek doesn't have, all the time in the world to find that Charbelcher.
So it looks like Sodek, Tom, on top of our screen there, has got 2 more Disruption Shoals in hand, plus a spell Snare.
Yep.
But as I say, but doesn't have all the time in the world. 14 life, 2 constructs on the battlefield. I count 4 artifacts, so that makes them 4/4s currently.
Yes, you definitely got that right. This does look like an Underworld Breach. I'm not that well versed when it comes to like alternate arts and stuff. So hopefully you can.
That's why you're here with me, my friend. You smashed it on the head. That is a breach. We got the 1 blue mana up, but we might try and exile it here with the Disrupting Shoal.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So it looks like Sodek has double backup for this because the Spell Snare does hit the Breach. But now Sodek has to think about, is that Spell Snare going to be better for me next turn because it's cheaper to use as a backup spell if my opponent's interaction is a 2-mana spell anyway. But it looks like he goes for the Snare.
I think, talk me through the pros and cons of this. Like, why would we be thinking of using our Disruption Shoal when we, that could be better against some other CMCs later on? Why would we not use our Spell Snare in that instance?
Yeah, it's basically because right now we have 7 mana on the battlefield. So Spell Snare is just cheaper mana-wise if we're going to back up a spell. But I think since it only targets 2 drops, and Sodek's hand being Shoal plus Shoal, which is a 2-drop, you just have that 0 mana thing available. So it's just better to only extend 1 card to counter the Breach instead of 2, but it's worth thinking about when does cards matter and when does mana matter. So pretty interesting situation here.
Well, Tom found a Thundertrap trainer. Luca also knows about that from the Mistress Bauble. So 2 mana, we can have a little look at the top of our deck, potentially try and find any of the powerful cards that can get us back in this. Or we can do what he's going to do now here and use the Offspring. So cashing in the Lotus Bloom here to get the extra 3 mana, so 6 mana total, 2 mana for the Thundertrap trainer, 4 mana for Offspring. So basically we get 2 looks at this.
And that is very important because Sodek's life total is right now 1. Very important to mention. So 2 blockers against the 2 constructs is theoretically more time to find the Belcher. The downside to that is we just sacrificed our Lotus Bloom, so we actually need time to develop Belcher before we can activate. So a little bit of pros and cons here.
There's a land. Don't ask me what something's spike or whatever, but it's a land.
It's I think I actually know that one. It's Jari's Disruption. It's basically a 2-mana 4 spike that's also a tap blue land.
And there's the Goblin Charbelcher. So we've got the tools, we just don't have them really enough time to deploy them and activate them. It needs 7 mana total to be able to do that the turn the Belcher comes down, or we need a way of getting these construct tokens off the battlefield. I'm having a look at the sideboard because I think this might be game 2. Maybe a really quick game 1 would have happened.
It's possible. I'm not sure I've seen a sideboard card yet.
No, I can't say I have either. Unless that Pithy Needle is main deck.
Needle in the main deck.
Let's have a little look. Okay, we can see. There is a Pithy Needle in the main deck. So
it looks like a removal spell took care of a blocker, and lethal was
presented. So, Tom at 1 life basically.
Yep.
Which means 2 blockers, 2 attackers, 1 blocker gets it through. We're going to go to game number 2 or 3. We're going to try and get that cleaned up for you and just so we can see what is going on. But what we can do is we can have a little look at the players' deck list, what they brought this weekend. So if we can, let's see if we can get Sodek's on the screen. Let's look at this mono blue Belcher, one of the kind of the new deck that came into fruition with MH3 coming out. It gave us a lot of these like spell lands. Have we actually got a proper name for them yet? Like what? It's just a spell land, right?
Yeah, I think whenever it's like MDC, is that the one? I really don't know the abbreviation, but yeah, the whole point is you actually get a lot of blue sources to be actual mana sources, but not, get checked by Goblin Charbelcher. And once you have enough of those, aside from, consistency cards like the Archaeologist and the Trainer, and War of Invention, then all of a sudden this deck came to fruition, not to mention Flare of Denial, a key card of this deck, where these, let's call them Augur of Bolas type creatures, they all of a sudden turn into double duty. They're both fixing your draws. They can even look for lands here with the double-faced lands. So yeah, just a lot of flexibility going on, and kind of the perfect combination for this deck to exist.
We're going into this weekend. You knew you're going to play against Belcher at some point. Like, you cannot play a modern tournament right now with this higher stakes on the line without thinking you're going to play into Belcher. So, not Belcher.
Breach.
So many different combinations maybe with Breach. This sideboard, what do you like bringing in? What has Tom brought going? I know I'm going to play it. These are the cards I've got purposely for that matchup.
Yeah, it actually looks somewhat soft in that regard. I think that this will be very, very soft sideboarding, and Thomas will just focus on his own plan and hopefully forcing it through and using cards like Spell Snare and the Disrupting Shoal and Flare Denial to make sure he doesn't die. This is a kind of a combo mirror where whoever blinks first is likely to lose because the other player can most likely stop them. I'll say Urza Saga in the other deck is something that breaks that symmetry, where then all of a sudden the Breach deck benefits from the draw go situation. But it actually looks like very, very light sideboarding, if any here. Maybe a little bit of into the Flood Maw and potentially the Surgical, but it's going to be very, very slim sideboarding on the sides of Tomas.
Is Consign a trap? Because obviously 1 mana, great counter spell, counters a load of the artifacts to stop a bunch of these triggers, but a majority of Tom's land also come into play tap. So, those early turns with all the 0 mana artifacts coming down, we could just miss our window there. Is it a trap? Do you think maybe he's going to bring some of these in because it's a cheaper counter spell opposed to things like Flare Denial? Or
Great question. I would argue that this is solely for the Eldrazi matchups, but I guess we'll see. I'll say no to that question.
I'm just thinking it from my point of view. Like, I'm like, well, I feel like I would bring them in, and obviously, I mean, if I'm doing it, it means you probably shouldn't be doing it. Same with Surgical. Like, I feel like maybe this is a matchup with Surgical. He's going to mill himself a lot. If I can hit a Breach or I can counter a Breach and then get rid of it, then the deck kind of shuts down.
Yeah.
Obviously, that perfect scenario that we all think is going to play out in our head, but never really does. Like, is that a thing, or is just Surgical still the most sideboarded card, overrated in Magic?
I think your logic is very, very solid. So you need to ask yourself, how much am I giving up by removing a consistency card from my deck that could be, protection for my combo, tutor effect for my combo, mana sources. And then at the end of the day, you want to sideboard as light as possible when you're playing a combo deck, because it's kind of like Affinity back in the day. You need the critical mass of your own stuff and then worry about the opponent second.
Man, I miss Affinity. That was my first ever modern deck.
Oh, nice.
And purely because someone said it was called Robots. And I was like, I really want to play a deck called Robots. That sounds amazing. All right, let's have a little look over at Luca's side if we can see what deck they brought. We know it's Breach. We know it's probably a 70 of the most common 75 that we kind of see. Is there any spice in here? Let's have a little look-see.
I mean, this is very interesting because I actually think the Team of Breach deck can reliably play the control role in this matchup, mainly because what I already alluded to, because of the Urza Sagas that I am having a hard time finding right now in this list. They're down there. Okay,
There they
under
go.
enchantments. Got it. So the Urza Saga kind of lets you play the draw-go game, and in that game, then all of a sudden your consigns are good. Your holding up counter magic is good, and I actually think that's the role that Luca is gonna go for here. Then you can trim on some of the removal spells, like on Holy Heat, and make your deck a bit more, low to the ground, and then sit there with some counter spells and maybe even trim on your combo here. So yeah, Breach for sure the control deck in this matchup.
It is interesting how this all goes. Right, let's get down to the players, see how they're getting on with their sideboarding. See if we can catch them. We are just checking if we are going into game 2 or game 3. Obviously, this is going to be very dependent on what's happening. But I think it's game 2. The amount of time when we jumped in, we literally just went live as the round went. So either Tom would have had to win that first game extremely quick, or maybe we just mishit a button there. But we'll sort that one out for everybody. Remember, if you just tune in, 115 players in the room. Some of the big names, we've got Mengu, we've got Pivo, and we're now seeing Sodek, all kind of battling out. I think I saw a Pygonti floating around the room as well. So a lot of Europe's big players battling it out. They tried to get me and you to play Andreas, but we said no.
Yeah,
we need to be in the booth. Someone's got to steer this ship. Someone's got to talk through it. We'll take that mantle up. Maybe you'll see us in some of the events in the future, because of course this is a European Unity League. That means all across Europe can take part and try and qualify for that end of year tournament, as we are kicking off here with a tap land and a Mistress Bauble over on Luca's side.
Yep, a little bit of selection here out the gates. Bauble plus fetch land, something that is a staple of many formats, even Legacy and Vintage. And life total is not much of a concern here, so I actually just think we want to get our mana rolling early enough. And it looks like we were already surveilling here, and I think we're maybe responding or at least acting before drawing the random card on the opponent's upkeep here.
I like this.
When you see a card you don't like on top of your deck, you can shuffle it away, and then with the delayed trigger, get a random card instead, getting closer to actual action. So pretty cool.
Talk to me about this Surveil land. And I feel like I've been talking to them for like over a year now. Just how good they are. I saw them in Vintage last night. I was watching some Vintage streams, and they were playing them in Vintage. That means this card plays in every single format. Why are these so popular?
Yeah, it's just very, very low cost to have a card that gives you a higher chance of having a perfect land spell ratio. Mana to spell ratio is something that, you always hear about this. Oh, I failed to find my third land, so I just lost. Or, oh, I drew 3 lands in a row in the late game and I lost. And these survey lands are here to minimize variance at a very, very low cost. So them being fetchable makes them so strong. And even with graveyard synergies, like we will see people maybe milling over an Atraxa for their Goryo's Vengeance deck today, and at that point it just becomes silly. So those are awesome across all formats, in my opinion.
I've happened to that exact scenario happened to me way more than I want it to happen to me. It's like, oh really, you milled the Atraxa? Oh cool, yeah, you're bringing it back and hitting me with it. Yeah, this seems fair. And that was back in the days with Grief as well. So it's like, oh, you got any interaction? No, you don't. I'm getting rid of that as well.
Oh yeah, build your own Entomb for the price of fetching a land in your deck. Like that's just awesome.
All right, well we're gonna go for a little bit of ponder here. Don't like those cards. Going to put them to the bottom, get a fresh new one. Over on Tom's side, did play the Thundertrap Trainer and hit that Lotus Bloom on suspend.
Yeah, suspending Lotus Bloom turn 2 is then you know what Tomas drew for that turn, right? Otherwise he would have gotten suspended turn 1. Thundertrap Trainer getting in for chip damage is something I underrated a little bit during sideboarding, because sure, the Breach deck is the one with the Sagas, but if Breach doesn't draw the Sagas, then these small creatures can actually make sure that Belcher is the control deck, and now it's on the Breach deck to react, right? So it can kind of flip the script a little bit here. And
that's a bold claim. If you're telling me this game is going to be won by a Thundertrap Trainer being turned sideways 20 times, I'm going to be like, I might do something crazy, because I don't think I've ever seen that, and I played this deck as well myself.
Yeah, so just imagine it gets a friend at some point, and the Belcher deck has like triple counterspell in hand. But I guess this plan is now out the window, because now Urza Saga sees the battlefield on the side of the Breach deck. I'm just saying it's not
in Tom's hand. I just saw a Surgical Extraction.
Okay, so he likes the Surgical to break up the combo, basically, which is it's for sure viable. There must be some stuff you can trim from that deck.
Also, I don't like. Oh, it's a whirler. I was like, there's a card in the hand that looks like Terminus. I'm pretty sure it's not Terminus,
For
but
sure not Terminus.
I wouldn't put it past Tom, even though we know the deck list. It is a whirler that he's got.
So here I want to talk a little bit about Malevolent Rumble, which I call the Green Ponder. It's just when that card came out, it was very, very underrated. But the fact that you get back the Eldrazi Spawn, so in the mid game, it's actually a 1-mana card, and it has Graveyard Synergy, and it digs for all your combo pieces. It just really does a lot for this deck.
It took a while for this one to like show up on the radar, though, right?
Yeah.
Like people thought, okay, this is gonna be good, and like pauper things like that, and then we've just seen it move into to more Eternal formats because it really is good. It is a 1-mana basically because you get this Eldrazi Spawn token way of finding the key pieces you need. Like we even use it in Yawgmoth, so it's not just a Breach combo deck.
Right.
We see this in multiple other type decks, which I think is really good and really good. Like hats off to Wizards for being able to give us these sort of cards that can fit into multiple different decks, multiple different roles.
Yeah, great point about tipping our hats to the design team, because 90% of what we read is, going to be negative, but cards like that are just so well designed that I definitely like giving them their flowers for designs like that. Saga's up to 2 now, and we can start making constructs.
And this is the problem with Tom, right? Like if the constructs start rolling, this is where he's got a problem. Doesn't have a great way of dealing with them. His hand's very just reactive right now, and Saga's a great way of going underneath all that reactive.
Yeah, because now if nothing else happens, Luca will easily win this game. So then it's on Tom to act, and as I alluded to, when you act first, you have less mana to defend with, and it's generally not something that you want to have happen ideally. The Lotus Bloom does help a lot, having a lot of mana available. So maybe Tomas can find the perfect line here. And I think Luca's up a game here, so the graphic is telling a little bit of a lie at the moment. So
we can see it on the iPad. If we go by the iPad, it says it.
Okay, perfect.
That is just a plus button. It might just be a plus button. It's fine. We know what's going on. Luca is definitely up a game here against Tom. That is for sure. As of course, we're in round number 1 of 7 that we're bringing you today. And then we've got that cut to top 8. You're going to have me and Andreas for the first 5 rounds today, bringing this to you. And then before we pass it across to the next set of casters, because we've got some things to do. It's a Saturday after all.
Oh yeah, I have Magic to play after this tournament.
You're non-stop, my friend. You are non-stop. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of showcases on Magic Online. So yeah, definitely a highlight weekend here. I get the best of both worlds.
And there's me. It's like I'm gonna go to the gym or something. You know what I mean? Something boring.
Not bad either.
Consign to Memory.
Yeah, and
go ahead, Will. This is a card that is great against Tom, right? Like this, it stops the trigger. It can counter some of the key cards that are coming down, like this Lotus Bloom coming off suspend. Just froze the consign.
Yeah, and the Eldrazi Spawn here to replicate is sacrificed to replicate the consign, which is basically to make sure that not a single piece of counter magic can force through the Lotus Bloom. I like this. This is a good way to say I don't want to lose to the nuts right now. I'm here to prolong the game and let my Saga tokens do the talking. Also, we know about Pithing Needle.
Ooh.
So
Harbinger of the Sea coming in now. I was wondering if this was going to be a good card to come in purely just to stop Sagas and turn them off.
Yeah.
Also adds that beatdown plan, because you said that majority, they're probably going to board out the Unholy Heats. That's not really a card for this matchup. Most of their creatures are just going to be there as kind of fodder for the counter magic that they can have, the flares of denials, etc. I'm not really worried about my life total, but in this instance here, now it's just be able to Stone Rain while keeping a 2/2 on the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised by this, but it also makes a lot of sense. If we're in a combo matchup, my opponent is going to be fetching more, fetch for the duels. Life total doesn't matter a whole lot. And then one of the worst things that could happen is this draw go situation where Ursa Saga takes over games. So the Harbinger is actually crossing a lot of checking a lot of boxes here, and it obviously looks awesome when you get to Stone Rain.
We're on Luca's side, so Luca's going to have all islands right now. So the one basic we've got is an island, all the rest of them are now turned into islands. Here comes an Emery.
Yep.
Flip over 4 cards, put them into the graveyard. Going to get in there for 2 points of damage because we've got that Opal on the battlefield as well.
I believe that one is actually an Amber. Is that true?
That is correct. I meant Mox, not Opal. It's fine.
Some kind of Mox that adds a blue mana.
Isn't there a new Mox coming out? Dragon Mox or something like that?
I think it's called something like Mox Jasper or something. But it has to do with dragons.
Look, I'm all about that. Yeah, I'm happy. Okay, I like dragons in Magic the Gathering. If you want to give me a mox that works with dragons, and
I
then
saw
some out
somebody
of
post
nowhere,
on Twitter with the 1/1 artifact Changeling, which is a 1/1 with all creature types. Then that works with, Opal. It works with the new mox as well. It's just kind of cool to see.
Mutavolts as well. Oh, here's a bit of action over on Tom's side. Going to pay 2 life for Surgical. Surgical targeting Underworld Breach in the graveyard. This is kind of that dream scenario that we spoke about now. Like, if we take the combo element away,
the mill from Malevolent Rumble was a disadvantage here because it actually exposed the breaches. With that being said, I'm trying to look up the deck list here of what's the breach decks, route to victory is at this point. But I do believe the list plays a mountain, so it's very nice to get these out of here.
One of the basically we've turned off the combo element. I think it's always correct if you can. Underworld Breach is what you name with generic X spell that can exile spells from your opponent's hand, library, and graveyard. Right, like this is the key card that really is broken. It's banned in every other format basically. So this is one of the last ones it can survive in for how much longer? TBC. But I think that's the correct call by the time. Now it's really making things hard for Luca to be able to win this game because they can't do it for constructs because the Harbinger of the Sea. They now can't do it because of the Underworld breaches. But I say this, there is one construct. It is now a 3/3. This clock's ticking away.
Yeah, so now the breach deck is relegated to mono blue. I don't even know what to call it, but yeah, you definitely nailed it there. The combo is off the table. And so is every red mana. And Sodek just got to take a peek on the sideboard plan as well. So
how important is that when you get to take these effects like a Surgical where you get to look for your opponent's deck post sideboard? You've hit a key combo piece, that's great, but not only that, you get to look at every single card that they brought in.
I think that's amazing because especially when you see a card like Veil of Summer in your opponent's hand, that card is just gonna inform you a lot instead of getting blown out by that card and learning the hard way.
How about Flame of Anor here?
Oh, Mox Opal being the red source under the Harbinger, and then Flame of Anor being this serviceable, it's basically a shock, a disenchant, and a draw 2. Yeah, that's just awesome deck building as well, right? You get a lot of flexibility with slots like that have multiple purposes. And killing a Harbinger was maybe not on Lucas' list when he rolled up this morning, but it's certainly something you can do.
Well, with the Emery being a wizard itself means we do get to use 2 modes.
Yeah.
But it looks like in response, we're going to Whirler for 4, which is going to get the Belcher.
Probably going to just put the Belcher into play. And I like the timing here because we're doing it before our opponent gets a chance to draw 2 cards and find interaction. I'm actually not sure what kind of interaction we have for that card. We do have 1 Spell Pierce in the deck as far as I can see. And a couple of Swan Songs. So just nice timing here by Tomas. He's certainly no stranger to timing his combo pieces against a blue deck.
This is Tom 101. He's like, look, if you got the answer, here it is. Do you have a consign to stop the trigger when I try and go for it? He does have 1 consign in hand, I can see.
Yeah, Troubleshoot is an activated ability, so that doesn't even work.
That's the thing. That happened in a tournament where someone did it, and that's where the controversy. That's why it's stuck in my head, thinking you can do it.
Yeah, if consign was actually stifle with upside, it would be a problem. Oh wow, Otawara and
Otawara it back. So do we not have enough mana to cast it and activate it anyway? But we can consign it on the way back down.
Exactly. So now we get a good timing for exactly that. So
well played there by Luca as well, by the way.
Yeah, and Emery helping on the discount, and yeah, that was perfect.
Now a Saga comes down, more beats are getting in there. That's 4 damage. We're going to chump block that with the trainer.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. And now the replicate on consign will also make sure that Tomas can't have anything like backup counter of his own. So yeah, just the perfect situation here for Luca, really.
So here comes 3 mana. Okay, so this is the alternative kind of win combo, which can happy. Tameshi, talk me through.
Yeah, Tameshi is a card that it works really well with Lotus Bloom and bringing back your Charbelcher. So let's say you have a lot of time to work with, then you can actually start bringing back stuff, but it requires time and a lot of mana, and it's unclear if that is available to Tomas right now. It's also kind of cool. It can return the lands, which then can turn into spells because of the double-sided nature of the card. So pretty complicated card, I'll say.
It's really cool when you get to do this combo, because it's like consign. You're going to counter it, great. Well, I'm going to redo it. I get to bounce back these spells, which are actually my lands, to my hand. I can kind of get a bit of a loop going here, generate enough mana that even if you do, he's just like, Luke is just waving his wrist like, yep, yeah, I know the cycle. You keep going. Yep, you can draw your card. You can add mana. You're going to keep going, and it might be enough to be able to fight through some counter magic or.
Yeah, so let's see. Lotus gets cracked. Mana floating. Looks like an activation here, returning land of Tomas's choice.
So that's going to be two white we've got floating.
Yep, floating white here.
Veil of Summer being cast.
So worth noting is that Veil of Summer will not draw a card right now, because Oh, wait a minute. Did a blue spell get cast?
Yeah, the Tameshi itself.
Oh, we're on the same turn? Okay.
Yeah, same turn. So I think we're just doing that to go one card deeper. Like, it's Charbelcher is not a black spell. It's not a blue spell, so we can still be targeted.
So we also now ensure that counter magic is off the table on the side of Tomas, with the Veil of Summer getting resolved. But we are doing our Salvager's Black Lotus impression here with Tameshi and Lotus Bloom.
Right. Chat question: how much mana are we going to have floating by the end of this? Is Tom just going to return all his lands back to his hand every time he does this? Nets another 2 mana.
Yeah,
and it looks like we're going for it.
Definitely going for it, and now it has to do with Tomas's ability to play through whatever interaction Luca has.
He is aware of some of the cards, right, from the surgical. So I think he knows about one consign.
He knows about consign, but with enough mana here, it just looks like we can play through that with Tameshi here. Play Belcher, get it countered, then return it. But I guess we returned all our lands now, so
12 blue.
But we did have a mana, a land drop to go. That certainly makes things more simple.
Tom down to 7. It gives another 2 mana. Well, actually, another 3 mana gets netted. Now he's going to play, use 4 mana for the blue to play the Belcher.
So let's see how many times we're replicating. It looks like we're replicating 3 times. So that Belcher is for sure getting countered. Then it gets returned, and it looks like we're going to gain 3 here.
Was able to generate enough mana to turn off the counter magic. Sure, let it resolve. Because if it was just like 1 mana, Tom can pay the 1 mana. That's fine. But other than that, he's got so much more opportunities to bring it back from the graveyard and activate it in the same turn. Tom is a master of these combo decks, knows exactly how to pilot them, and knows the lines that he needs to take. That's what we just seen right there, which means we're going to go to a game number 3 here. Let's have another look at the sideboards of both of these players. Let's look at the full 75 that they have brought, if we can get them on the screen. We'll start over on Luca's side this time, if we can. Look at the Belcher deck. We've seen the consigns came in out the sideboard. Did we see anything else?
We did see the Veil of Summer, which is what I alluded to being very nice for Sodek to actually see with the surgical. So you got a little bit of value and knowledge there, because do remember we're playing a closed decklist tournament. So every bit of scouting is going to be useful when you're maneuvering the next game. Also, I think we saw the second copy of Flame of Anor getting added, I would imagine anyway. So it goes up to 2 in total. And now Luca has confirmation that those are actually super good, because 1, they kill, a developed Belcher without the mana to activate it, but it also kills the Harbinger. So a lot of information getting exchanged here. Also, the value of basic Mountain went up. So I'm actually interested in the leveling here, if Tomas will bring out the Harbingers, or how that is going to play out.
I was literally just about to ask you that. I was like, now, because Thomas has played the Harbinger. Is it good enough to keep in to make Luca play round it? Or is it kind of just going to be a mind game? Is it, well, I'll just take these 3 out and bring in 3 more potentially counter spells? If we can go have a look at what Tom's 75 looks like, we can have a little talk. Maybe there's something to replace it. So we knew that the Harbingers came in. We knew the Surgical came in. So that's at least 4 cards at the sideboard that came into the main. Do you think we'd swap anything back across? Is there anything that now we're on the draw?
Very, very interesting. So in theory, we could say, I want to leave my opponents, they're going to be fetching kind of suboptimally. They're going to think twice about developing their Ursa Saga. They're going to have, prioritize removal spells when they see it on preordained to hedge for the Harbinger. And that is good enough. So I'll just leave them in my sideboard. I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. It's something that happens a lot in other formats where you let your opponent think about days, but it's actually in your sideboard. So we could see something similar here. And then we're just back to playing our plan A and letting our opponent worry about us.
And that's kind of it. We are seeing 2 ships kind of passing the night at this point, but there are 2 blue ships, which means there's counter magic on both sides. And of course, like, there's a lot of green spells that are quite good in this matchup that can really interact. And then the big kicker is, of course, Breach. I think once Tom was able to exile that with that Surgical Extraction, really knew that he could kind of take his time a little bit longer here, try and really develop. And that's what we've seen. He was able to take it down, where we've got an explosive turn 1 Emery here over on Luca's side, going to mill over. I think it's a bauble, a mox, some lands going across. We're going to have a little look at your top card here, Tom. It's a Flare Denial. We're going to draw in our upkeep. Like, Luca's off to the races here.
Yeah, when you get the Emery with Bauble going early, now all of a sudden you have the advantage because now the Drago will favor you. And I think that's just a very, very important aspect of this matchup. Who does the Drago benefit? And now heavy advantage to the Breach deck.
Hey, why might? Here comes the Bauble, which now turns on the Mox. Here comes Surveil Land. Of course, every deck's got to have a Surveil Land in them now. Grind Station, that's going to go to the graveyard. Don't want that one right now, especially when we can get it back out with this Emery later on if needs be. Then the last thing we're going to do over here, this is like the 7th game action on turn 2. Is going to be this Ponder. Was that double?
Just preordain. Ponder is not available in Modern yet, but it could be. It's actually a topic that I hear people talking about from time to time.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm thinking about tomorrow where we've got some legacy action. I know you're looking forward to that.
Oh, definitely. Just 2 awesome days back to back here, brought by the lovely guys from Unity.
Here comes the another trainer that's going to find himself a Whirler. That's going to go to the grip and just pass the turn back. Bauble, have a look what you got. That's just one of those. I'm going to say Spellland because there's so many of them, and I don't want to try and name them all.
Yeah, I think it's a Spellland. Yeah, it's fair to categorize it like that.
I think it's the blue-white one, whatever that one turns out to be.
Yeah, the suppression. Yeah, I drafted that at the Pro Tour. Humble brags.
There's the first flex on me tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
this morning. Sorry, this morning.
I heard it straight away. I caught myself.
It's all good. Do it. Right. Now we're playing the keyboard. That's never good when my opponent's playing the silent keyboard against me. Like, does that mean I'm dead? Can we just breach out here? Have we got the counter magic for my counter magic to play through it?
Yeah, definitely some stuff here. So Luca is highly favored. If this just keeps going on, then he'll just keep drawing an additional card every turn. But his deck also, offers combo finishes to win on the spot. So pretty interested to see what's going to be the approach here.
I guess like Luca's also got to respect things like a value breach. Like a value breach is so underestimated, but it can't really do that in the face of knowing that there's surgicals on the other side. Because if you just use it, get a little bit of value, and then Tom's able to take out all your breaches, like what you've been setting up for, you can't utilize anymore. So like maybe that's something that's running through the mind. We're going to play the grinding station into play, giving us the 4th artifact as we pass the turn back to Tom.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in this. So we're keeping our Bauble in play. I'm trying to figure out the point of that. Maybe it's because you kind of ensure that if you have the Metalcraft even through, one of your artifacts dying. I'm not sure here.
We've been doing it at the end step for the last couple of turns. So, maybe it's just like, what is Tom drawing into? Okay, that lets me kind of like sculpt my next couple turn or two. Tom does find the Goblin Shire Belcher, though, off the Archaeologist, puts that one into the hand, and then is going to play his 3rd land drop.
Right. So now Luca has information about the Belcher being there and the Whir of Invention being there. So the Whir of Invention is pretty good because it's the flex, like split card between Lotus Bloom and Charbelcher. So at this point, you would be looking to turn it into a Lotus Bloom. because you already have the Belcher. And here we see a little bit of cool interaction beside you on those lands. So
that's my favorite way to battle this deck, is blowing up their lands, because they don't play basic.
There's also the white Phantom Orchid that can kind of do the same. And this is exactly why we see a single mountain in the sideboard of the Belcher deck, which is pretty fun to see, that you're kind of hedging for decks that try and go hard on that effect.
But here comes an Underworld Breach. We're going to try and snap it off this turn. On the other side, we've got a Flare Denial. Here comes a Spell Pierce for that Flare Denial on the stack. Tom, unable to pay the 2 mana, so he's going to need another counter spell here.
Yep, it's going to need some free interaction here, or we're going to start seeing, some grinding.
Well, the combos on the backfield. So here comes a Disruption Shawl.
Pitching a 2-drop, I believe, targeting the...
I think that's into the Floodmore, isn't it? A 1-drop?
Oh, okay. That certainly works as well. I actually thought it was the Jari Disruption, the 2-drop land, but yeah, this certainly works. If you counter the Pierce or the Breach, it's gonna, be the same.
And then Emery's just going to... We're going to mill free. Emery's going to bring back the Mox, leave it untapped, and then pass it back to Tom.
So this tells us a lot, Will, about if we prioritize getting the Mox into play over drawing a card with Bauble. So that tells Tomas that Luke is holding a 1-mana disruption spell, or is valuing the activation of the onboard Haywire Might. It's mana is more important than cards at that point. So that screams consigned to memory to me.
I would say that there's probably another Breach in hand, and as we see Breach coming down. That's what it's supposed to be like. I've used a load of your resources up here. Here's another Flare of Denial. This one's going to get rid of the trainer.
Yeah.
Some more 0 mana interaction here on Tom's side, and it's going to resolve. No more backup here over on Luca's side. So that's a huge boon for Tom, knowing that he's going to potentially be able to untap and take another turn.
Oh, for sure. Not dying on the spot is is going to be good. Targeting ourselves with Bauble. So I guess we have, exactly. We had a fetch land in play, so we prioritized the selection over, info about the opponent's top card. I like this a lot. And then getting in with a little bit of chip damage here.
Hey, why, mate? What a card. Love this card. Also, it's like nice. Tom does play a few artifacts in there. Can hit something like a Lotus Bloom when it comes off Suspend, so they can't use that mana in the main phase, etc. It's got a little bit of nuances and interaction.
It does, and and in this game in particular, when you know that Tomas had the War of Invention dating back all the way from turn 2, I believe, then a normal play is like end step Whir for 0, put a Lotus into play, and then you want to untap. But the Haywire might have something to say about that when it's on board, so it's going to have value in this game, I feel like.
And Dress, I think we are in turns here for both our 2 combo decks. See that dice in the middle of the table? I think Lucas is turn 2.
Right.
Which means Tom's got turn 3 and turn 5 to potentially win the game. Lucas has got turn 2 and turn 4 to try and win this game.
Yeah, so thankfully we're playing combo here. So now we know that we're not winning with, random aggro beats, but it also forces either player to actually win with a combo finish, I guess. And with 2 breaches gone, maybe that's not possible.
Can Tom do it? We know there's a Whirler in hand still. So can end the step, Whirler, try and find himself a Lotus Bloom, and then if he's got a Breach in hand, which we do know about, could potentially try and play that and activate it in the same turn.
Yeah, the thing is the Haywire Might will kill the Lotus Bloom before Tom gets to untap. That's kind of the thing.
Oh, yeah, that is a problem. We literally spoke about that a second ago. How do you navigate this over on Tom's side?
Oh, yeah, it's tough here because either you have to prioritize trying to win yourself, but if you do that, maybe your shields go down and then the opponent can just combo you out. With the tournament structure at hand, a draw would not be ideal, but it's still a position where you can win 5 out of your 6 next rounds and be in a reasonable spot for top 8. But it's still, it's not ideal because then you get the pair downs and bad tiebreakers, and maybe you can end up in a situation where a draw equals a loss, which is the nightmare scenario.
Tom didn't show us that top card, keeping us all in suspense here. So Tom's setting up to try and do it on the end step here. So he's going to go for it. He has to go for it this next turn. It is Luca. If you have the answers, then it's going to be a draw because Luca has not been able to win on his turn 4.
Right.
So now it is on Tom. Double Whirler would do it. So
True. So if you get your Lotus blown up here and you have another Whir, you can actually find another one with the 3 floating mana, but that didn't happen.
Nature's Claim came in. So Nature's Claim is what was targeted.
Oh, okay.
Belcher. consign, handshake. We are going to get a draw here kicking off the European Unity League with 2 combo decks, nevertheless. Who would have thought about it? You would have think that this would have been a really quick matchup, but no, they had to take the full 50 minutes plus the 5 extra turns, and by the end of it, we get ourselves a draw. But that's fine. We've got lots more magic coming up for everybody at home. So let's come back to the booth where you can see me and Andrea.